Welcome back to the lecture series of Managerial Economics. In this session, I'm going to discuss most important topic in Managerial Economics. That is, what do we mean by production and what is production function? Both are most important terms. So I'll be giving some example as well. First, let's get to understand what is the meaning of production. So, production is the process of converting the input into outputs. Like we have raw material. Raw material will be converted into like furnished products. Product or it may be like a services. Both are fine. So input also like it is also known as factors of production, which includes land, labor, capital, organization. These are considered as inputs. Like another examples of inputs are like raw material, power, fuel, technology, time, services. These are also belongs to inputs only. If I talk about the output, it is like a final product or final service. That is actually called outputs. Production create the utility which adds the values of goods and services. Here, two terms are very important. One is input, other one is output. What are the examples of input and what are the examples of output? Input is basically raw material, output is the finished products. This is actually the basic meaning of input and output. If I talk about like a production, you should understand like what is the meaning of input and output. That is very important. Okay. So by the way, like it is a process of converting the entire input, the raw material, land, labor, etc., to the finished product or finished goods or service. That is actually called a production. That's the meaning. A baker uses flour, that is input. Then they have workers. They'll be using the utensils like ovens and different type of appliances, electricity, then produces the bread. Bread is the output where inputs are like workers, flour, oven, oil, etc. etc. These are actually called the inputs. Next is actually a very important term that is called what do you mean by production function? Production function shows the relation between input and output. What is the relation between input and output? That is actually the major thing of production function. How much output can we get with a given set of inputs? That's a question. Technological, not financial, and may be shown as like Q is equal to function of L, comma, K, comma, N, comma, etc. etc. What is Q? Q is the output. That means finished product or furnished product or finalized service. If I talk about L, K, N, etc., these are called labor, capital, land, workers, etc. All are belong to like input. So output is the function. These are the relation between input and output. Output, it is the function of all the inputs. That's the meaning of production function. Mathematically, we can write in this fashion. So there are two type of input. They are fixed inputs. Another one is variable input. Can you differentiate both? Yes, of course. Fixed input is actually do not change with respect to the output. If I talk about the land, building, machinery, that never changes. When I talk about the variable input, it changes as the output changes. Example, raw material, maybe 1 kilogram, 2 kilogram, 100 tons, 1000 tons, etc. Electricity, 1 unit, 1000 unit, 10,000 unit, like that. Labors, labor hours, 8 hours, 7 hours, 9 hours, etc. These are actually called variable inputs. Do remember this, fixed input and variable inputs. Hope you understood. Now let me move on to types of production function. We already discussed about the production function. First one is called a short run production function. Some inputs are fixed where other inputs are variable. Combination of fixed input and variable inputs. So that is such kind of production function is generally called as like a short run production function. It follows law of variable proportion, isocons curves. I'll be discussing in detail later on. So time being, you just remember that it follows law of variable proportions. If I talk about like a long term or long run production function, like remember all inputs are variable. In the previous case, like one input or like it's a combination of fixed and variable inputs. But if I talk about the long term or long run production function, we have variable inputs. All inputs are variable. It is related to returns to scale. So it may be like an increasing return, constant return, decreasing return. What do you mean by increasing return? More output from the proportional increase in the input. That is called increasing return. Output increases as the same rate as the input. That is called constant returns. When I talk about the decreasing return, output increases at a lower rate than like input increase. These are the three types of like return to scale. Okay, this point also very important for production function. Do remember this. What are the uses of production function? It helps the managers to find least cost input combination for the desired output. It supports the decision making, how much input used to based on the managerial production, how much input is required to produce the certain output. It assists the long run planning, whether like expand production. So these are the major applications of production function, which is very important for the managerial perspectives. I would like to show you one simple example so that you will understand. Consider a furniture company. They use 5 workers. There are 3 machines which produces 10 tables per day. If it adds one more worker and output increases to 12 table, of course, the production function helps to decide of hiring extra worker is worth the cost. Like it's a very simple, like a time and work. That is the best example I would like to convince. This is another example that you can go through it. Like using more land and labor only slightly increasing the crop yield. The firm might experiencing diminishing returns of the scale. We already studied the different type of scales. You can see decreasing returns that comes under the second example. So ultimately, we discussed what is production, which process which converts input to output. Production function is nothing but relation between input and output. Q is equal to function of L, K, etc., etc., etc. It helps optimizing the resources, planning cost-effective production strategies. Third point is very crucial for our managerial perspectives. Ultimately, thank you very much for watching this video. I request you to share this video. If the video is useful, kindly share with the stakeholders and also kindly subscribe our channel for getting the similar kind of video. Happy learning. I wish you all the very best for your examination as well as interview process. Thank you all. Happy learning. Have a great day. Thank you.